Hello there. Now, you might be thinking that there's an AI winter coming, or AI winter emerging. Lots of reports recently about apparently AI isn't bringing the type of return on investment that we thought. Is the funding kind of going to dry up? Are we heading into this kind of like, web bubble like it was in the 98, whatever it was, before the web kind of bubble burst? Are we going through the same sort of thing with AI? There's a story recently, I posted about it last week, about a CIO from a large pharma company who basically cancelled their Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses because it just wasn't providing the kind of value that they thought it would. Now, despite it sounds as though the program was rolled out terribly. It sounds as though the people in that organization weren't really trained on how to use this stuff properly. They weren't really given long enough to use their imagination. They weren't really educated enough either on how to use these tools properly and break bigger tasks down into smaller tasks, etc., etc., etc. But anyway, despite these murmurings that you may be witnessing, there's still a load of funding being pulled and pushed into the AI startup space. I've got a few examples here of some exciting sounding projects that have just got recent funding. So Groq, 640 million is just raised. That's Groq with a Q, not with a K. It's not Twitter's large language model. It's GROQ. It has just raised 640 million for its inference cloud solution. So it has its own processors called LPUs, language processing units, that have been specifically designed to process and inference for large language models and small language models. And apparently it runs LLMs a little differently. Main benefits being it can run more tokens faster whilst using less energy than GPUs. So Groq has a decent bit of substantial funding there from BlackRock and Samsung and others. Very similarly, a company called Fractile has just raised $15 million worth of funding to do something very similar, to work on its own set of chips that it says can process AI models up to 100 times faster and 10 times more cheaper than some of the existing hardware. The proof obviously is in the pudding. We'll see where that goes. But there's also some funding from Gradient AI, just raised $56 million worth of funding, Series C round, to focus on AI-powered insurance solutions. Now, I think it might have even been at the beginning of 2023, that we will see a lot more domain-specific, industry-specific AI solutions. Most AI vendors have got their own kind of like get started fast type of packages for banking and retail and all these other kind of industries. And we'll see now of large language models that different industries and different vendors and providers will be able to capitalize and differentiate based on creating fine-tuned or customized large language models for very specific industry domains. And Gradient here is having a stab at insurance, and so we'll see how that goes. Smaller bit of funding here from gnani, but the reason why this is really interesting is because it's an Indian company. It's $3 million worth of funding to work on voice first small language models. What that means is it's training small language models on voice data, so converting voice data into text, then training a small language model based on that, rather than the written text which all of the large language models are trained on. If you are like me and you've been heavily invested in the AI scene for quite a long time, you've got a lot of experience in building voice applications, you will know that people speak completely differently to how they type. And when you train a large language model on the typed word, it is entirely different to training one on the spoken word. So I'm really excited for what gnani can do, gnani rather, what it can do when it's trained a small language model, because you don't need a large language model. You don't need to understand the whole world's information. You just need to understand the patterns within the language of spoken language. And that's what gnani are attempting to do. It already supports 12 Indian languages. The Indian company is focusing on Indian language. Hopefully we get to see that same model or that same technology using English-speaking languages as well as many other languages, because I think that if you can focus on building a small language model that understands voice, spoken word, very, very accurately, I think you'll find that it's going to unlock a load of those voice-first use cases that we've been talking about for many, many years. There's lots of voice use cases emerging. There's lots of large language models being repurposed into the voice channel, which seem to be working okay. Obviously, we've got concerns about latency and all that kind of stuff, and it's a little bit overkill using a huge, massive language model to do something as simple as classify what somebody said. And finally, we have Contextual AI raising $80 million Series A funding to help businesses create their what it's saying here as their own AI applications, what it is essentially is Contextual has created a fairly simple way of being able to develop a RAG application where you can have your data ingested with a model on top of it, retrieve information, summarize it, and serve it back. That's a lot of money for a feature that quite a lot of other platforms already have. I don't know if I'm missing something here. Forgive me if I am, and I don't mean any disrespect because I really don't know that much about Contextual AI, but it's just raised $80 million rather, to help businesses utilize their data more effectively, faster, and hopefully cheaper than what might be out there at the moment. So there you go. Are we heading to an AI winter? I don't know. There's still quite a lot of VC funding being pumped into all this kind of stuff, and all the stories I'm hearing about AI not delivering the value that it was expected to do stem from poor deployments of this AI solution, poor rollouts, lack of training, and lack of time, and also a lack really of understanding what the value is you're aiming to get from it in the first place. There's so many organizations that are just implementing some kind of AI solution as a knee-jerk reaction because they have to, because that's what everyone's talking about, without really thinking properly about where should we start, what use cases should we tackle, how should we measure success, how should we roll this out properly for long-term success, not just trying to make our own version of ChatGPT and run to the hills smoking our cigars, but how do we set our businesses up for long-term success so we can continue to extract further value from this technology in the future, because it's not going absolutely anywhere. So there you go. Let me know what you think. Are we going towards this AI winter? Is AI not bringing the kind of value that it was expected to do? Is funding slowing down? Doesn't seem like that for me. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Nice one.